Organs were built for sacred spaces. Generally, sacred spaces are acoustically sound. Churches are acoustically sound because they're built for oration. That's one reason I like doing sound-based performances in churches, because of the acoustic nature of the spaces. That also has a lot to do with my practice as a performer. It's about engaging with the space itself and ultimately creating a space within a space. So you're sort of altering not only the air, but sort of every aspect of what that location is for a duration of time. And then once you finish, it could be forever altered, or it could go back to the thing that it was before.
You come to have an understanding of what sound volume means and how sound volume has a physical dimension that we can quite literally measure in these types of spaces. With our body, I can feel the weight that is behind an 8-foot pipe or a 16-foot pipe or a 32-foot pipe. It's interesting as a way of returning to a base level of what sound is, and there's a lot of fundamental information available from that type of physicality in the instrumentation. The pipe organ is a very physical instrument, so it is very grand in space. You're always working in these large environments that are very cold. Like right now it's very cold. So there's all these temperature, smells, it's a very physical experience. Then there's always scheduling matters, working with the church and trying to get access to the instrument. And then there's another physical issue where the action on these keyboards is so heavy, especially the mechanically oriented instruments that have systems of connection that are directly linked to the openings on the pipes. Also, for sometimes moving the stops is a very physical process that sometimes we don't experience, or we don't really experience with electronic instruments or digital instruments.
Someone who has been learning and playing in churches for a long time might not be able to step back in the way that I came to it, in terms of there are no rules. I didn't think there were any rules. I just came and I was like, what does this do? And what if I got on my hands and knees and depressed the pedal really slowly? What would that do? Whereas I think, if I had started organ lessons, perhaps I wouldn't have felt like I had the same freedom to explore or experiment in that way. So I felt completely free to experiment and find also sounds that perhaps a trained organist might think sounds wrong, but to me sounds beautiful.
This sound quality is, this reverb is maybe about 4.5 seconds, and you have to memorize that reverberation as well in order to match your frequencies to the distance they carry, and you can anticipate phrase that way. And I think that's part of being a musician as well, is that you're removing a sensorial element in order to privilege another. And so I think my answer to your question is that I will remember the sound of the space.
I would say though, even like from writing new pieces on organs to going on tour and playing material that already exists, like especially for me, because I'm manipulating the wind in the mechanical stop action, you can't just rock up on the day and play the piece, because you need to get to know every single incremental sound that that makes as you're pulling out that stop. So a tour is actually a lot longer, because you need to spend, I mean, ideally I have 3 to 4 days where I can really work the material, because you're not just playing the instrument, you're also playing the building, you need to get used to it. And sometimes where you're sitting, not all the pipes are there, they're across the other side of the building. So there's a lot of moving parts that you can't bring together quickly.
The idea of a performance gives the audience a memory as a takeaway. And so the memory then becomes that art object. And everyone will have a different vantage point and has their own perspective, their own relationship and experience within the space. And so everyone has a very unique object that they take away. Because ultimately what you have with memory is an approximation of an event that happened. It's not an actuality. No memory is an actuality. They're all interpretations and approximations of a thing.